Today, I want to take that conversation one step further and chat a bit more about your baby's nervous system, this idea or concept of self regulation. I will also touch on the difference between self soothing and self settling. Welcome to Mothering from Within, the podcast where we dive into the heart of parenting during those magical yet challenging first few years. I'm Kaili Ets, a mama of two, a pediatric occupational therapist, and your guide on this beautiful journey of motherhood. Every week, we explore the wonders and hurdles of motherhood with curiosity, we gain clarity around our babies, and find the courage to trust our instincts. If you are a mama who wants to do motherhood your way, confidently, courageously, authentically, then you are in the right place. So grab a cup of tea, tuck those little ones in for a nap, or bring them along for the ride. It's time to get curious, gain clarity, and unleash your courage to do motherhood your way. A gentle disclaimer, please do not consider anything discussed on this podcast by myself or any guest of the podcast to be medical advice. The information is provided for educational purposes only and does not take the place of your own medical or healthcare provider. In today's episode, I want to piggyback a little on a previous video on parenting the infant brain. In that, I talked about how we, as adults, as parents, act as our baby's brain and their stress regulators because their brains are actually quite immature at birth and for the first many years. Today, I want to take that conversation one step further and chat a bit more about your baby's nervous system, this idea or concept of self-regulation. I will also touch on the difference between self-soothing and self-settling, and then we'll finish off with a discussion about the magical dance of co-regulation. Your baby's nervous system is slower than yours, which means it's slower to quote-unquote correct itself when it goes out of balance. You'd learned that your baby's brains aren't fully formed or able to self-regulate, and they're still learning through experience about all the sensory input coming in from their environment, about how everything feels in their bodies, and about what they like and don't like, how to suck, swallow, and even breathe. They need time to process it all, to have their brain figure out what to do with the information. So go slow with your baby while you play. Slow down your movements, your speech. Avoid the hustle and bustle of rushing through from task to task. And when you're doing an activity with them, whether it's diaper changing or playing in tummy time, remember that their body and brain is processing it. Allow them time to integrate it. As Dr. Greer Kirschenbaum says, positive, responsive, interactive, reliable care and co-regulation of distress are key for healthy brain development. This includes nighttime parenting. And if you haven't read her book, Nurture Revolution, I highly recommend it. Consistent responsive care develops attachment, and nurturing interaction lays the foundation for key aspects of self-regulation. For example, attention, impulse control, cortical development, and the ability to modulate stress. Okay, now that you understand a little bit more about self-regulation, and please do go back to that other episode on parenting the infant brain, I want to touch on another yet related topic, which is this idea of quote-unquote self-soothing. I know you have heard this term before. It is likely you are being bombarded with it on an almost daily basis. Self-soothing is the ability to calm and comfort yourself and diminish negative emotions and distress. It's a form of emotional regulation or self-regulation. The concept is really popular in today's Western culture, particularly when it comes to a baby's sleep, but also in terms of generally being with and interacting with our babies. The claim is that you must teach your baby to self-soothe if you want them to fall asleep and stay asleep during the night, and that you shouldn't pick them up every time they cry. The reality is, you cannot teach your baby to self-soothe. They develop the ability over time. When babies wake up normally with no sleep training, they signal a caregiver because they have a need, whether it's thirst or hunger or discomfort or loneliness, temperature regulation, maybe it's fear, or they just need comfort. Waking with a need means they're experiencing a rise in stress. They signal a caregiver to meet the need, lower their stress, and help them fall back asleep. As I've discussed earlier in the previous episode on parenting the infant brain, due to their brain structures, babies and young children are incapable of calming down from a place of stress. If babies were capable of self-soothing, it would mean that they'd wake up with a need, somehow lower their stress, either meet or ignore the need, and then fall back asleep on their own. Infants cannot do this during the day or the night. Heck, if you've ever met a toddler in the throes of a meltdown because they got the pink cup and not the blue cup, you'll know that they don't have the capacity to regulate their emotions. We need a functioning prefrontal cortex or thinking brain to self-soothe or self-regulate. Even as adults, we can't self-regulate all the time. I love the quote from Sarah Ockwell-Smith in her book, The Gentle Sleep Book. When a child is capable of controlling their own emotions, only then are they truly able to self-soothe or settle themselves when they're anything but calm. Now, to make matters even more confusing to parents, the term self-soothing is often confused with and used interchangeably with self-settling, but they're actually quite different. Self-settling describes a child's ability to regulate their bodies without support, usually from a calm state, to remain in a calm state. So, for example, from a calm awake state to sleep, or falling back to sleep after a transition between sleep cycles. It's a physiological process, an ability to remain calm and regulate their bodies by adjusting their body temperature, changing their breathing, and bringing themselves into midline and more of an organization and that calm. This can happen only when a baby's needs have been met both physically and emotionally. They are already in a calm state and they feel safe and secure. The key here is that a baby is regulating their physiological state from a state of calm without stress or tears, whereas self-soothing is the process of calming oneself from a state of distress, which requires much more cognitive and that thinking brain power, as I have discussed in the previous episode. Self-settling also isn't something you can necessarily train someone to do, though you can start supporting your baby to do so by creating a peaceful environment that is conducive to sleep or allowing them the ability to self-settle throughout the day. Your baby is going to start to practice self-settling. This might look like sucking on their hands, babbling or singing to themselves, blowing bubbles, rubbing their cheek against the crib mattress, or even vigorously sucking on their soother. My kids loved to chew on the ears of their lovies, and our favorite ones were always the angel deer ones. While we can't teach or train babies to self-soothe, at least not until they have the cognitive ability for this, we can help them learn this important life skill through experience, specifically through the experience of co-regulation, so that they learn what positive soothing experiences feel like. We can help them move into calm states with the power of our own regulation and our ability to calm ourselves using our thinking brains. By experiencing this, our babies can draw on these skills later on in life, independently when they are developmentally ready. I want to take a moment and let you know about my book, Mothering from Within. Like a good friend, therapist, and mentor, this book offers guidance and support to help you navigate motherhood with intuition, grace, and yes, a bit of humor. It's full of evidence-informed, developmentally appropriate, attachment-focused information on developmental milestones, baby sleep, reflux, feeding, mama mental health, and so much more. To grab a copy, check out the link in the show notes below. Okay, so now we have talked about our baby's brains and how they differ from our brains as adults, why our baby's brains are more immature than ours, and also why it is so important for us to use our adult brains to support our baby's brains. We've also covered stress and how our babies might experience stress, and discussed why self-soothing and self-settling are not the same thing, and why we cannot actually teach or train our babies and toddlers to self-soothe. I hope that you can see how important our presence, our response, our support is in our babies' and children's lives. And this doesn't end after the infancy period, which, remember, is up until age 3. And this brings me to the concept of co-regulation, which is like a dance between caregiver and baby. Through co-regulation, we as adults and parents act as the regulator for our babies and children while their brains develop and learn to do this for themselves. Together with them and alongside them, we manage and align our emotions and behaviors. Co-regulation is a foundational element in developing secure attachments and emotional self-regulation in babies, toddlers, and young children. When they cry, we pick them up and we comfort them. When they're hurt, we rub or kiss their bumps and bruises. When they're dysregulated and in the throes of a toddler tantrum or meltdown, we hold space for them or wrap them in a big, warm, loving hug. Although it may seem as if we're doing the work for them and thus they aren't learning anything, and this is actually an old paradigm that exists from the way that we or our parents were parented. We now know that nurturing interaction, which happens through co-regulation, which is how we actually parent the infant brain, this stimulates the brain, promoting neural pathways for the developing brain and nervous system, which in turn will help the brain to learn how to regulate. Co-regulation isn't just about calming down, though. It's about teaching children how to understand and respond to their emotions effectively. It helps children feel safe and secure, which in turn supports their cognitive and social emotional development. Through co-regulation, we provide models for managing feelings and behaviors, which is essential for building resilience and empathy. It's about creating an environment where our babies feel valued and understood, which boosts their brain development and helps them grow into well-rounded individuals. And co-regulation is sensory. All humans, especially children, experience the world through their senses. These sensory experiences are what shape our understanding of the world and how we relate to it. And sometimes these sensory inputs can often be overwhelming or confusing, especially for our more sensitive babies or those who have had a tougher start to life and perhaps a traumatic birth experience. In such cases, the role of a caregiver or even a therapist is critical in providing external modulation and support to help this child process the sensory inputs in their environment and in their life. We as parents, as adults, co-regulate with our babies and children and really with each other as well by providing physical and emotional presence that helps our child feel secure and grounded. This might include things like physical touch. Gentle, nurturing contact can help soothe a child. This could be through holding, cuddling, or other forms of comforting physical contact. The sensory experience of touch can provide immediate data to the child's nervous system about safety and security, helping to regulate their sensory overload. We also can use voice modulation, so the tone, volume, and speed of a caregiver's voice can significantly influence a child's ability to regulate their emotional and their sensory state. A calm, soft voice can be a powerful tool in helping your child feel calm and contained and secure. Then we have predictable environment. So creating a predictable and structured environment can help reduce sensory sort of surprises and unpredictableness, unfamiliarity that might overwhelm a child. Consistency in routine and environment allows the child to feel more in control of their sensory experiences and their experience with life. And then modeling regulation. So we really need to be modeling through sensory regulation with our own behaviors. By demonstrating calmness in response to sensory input, we as caregivers can show our children effective strategies for managing the sensory information that is coming in. Though you likely already co-regulate with your baby naturally through your mama instincts, one of the ways that we can really consciously start to tune into this dance of co-regulation with our babies is actually to learn what dysregulation looks like. And one of the best ways to measure stress or dysregulation is actually in the face. Facial cues will usually happen before the crying. Many of these cues are similar to tired cues as well. So this is where you have to put your detective hat on to figure out what your unique baby or toddler needs. Are they tired? Are they hungry? Are they stressed? Are they bored? Are they overstimulated? Maybe they're uncomfortable due to the position that they're in or something going on in their gut. Maybe they're working on a big poop. Or maybe they're highly sensitive and they have some underlying sensory processing differences that are causing this feeling of dysregulation. For babies, dysregulation might look like a frozen, sort of empty or squinting eyes, widening of eyes, think like deer in headlights, turning away, flushed skin, biting, chewing, pressing, or clenched fingers. Maybe they're sucking on their fingers or their hand. And this can also be a sign of hunger. So you'll need to think of when they fed last if you see that. It could be that they're straightening their body or trying to push away. Sometimes they curl up into more of a ball. For toddlers, dysregulation might look like running away, crying or screaming, squirming, fidgeting, nervous giggling, being more clingy than usual, or having a full-blown meltdown or tantrum. So if you see any of these signs, then that is your cue to get curious. The key is to recognize dysregulation and then understand the underlying need and address it. Initially, you're going to address it through co-regulation, which can help your child kind of return to a calm state again. If we think back to the concept of parenting the infant brain and being their stress regulator, if we're focused on tuning into our babies and their unique cues and needs, we can consciously take action to prevent dysregulation. We can build rest periods into the day, or we can leave an overstimulating environment. There are many ways that we can help our children and ourselves, and many of these involve our sensory systems. And I will chat more about our sensory systems in more detail in a future episode. But for now, here are some sensory-based co-regulation strategies or ideas for you. So number one, baby wearing. Keeping your baby close through baby wearing not only provides comfort through touch and movement, but also helps regulate their heartbeat, their temperature, and their breathing rate. It's a very soothing practice that reinforces safety and connection, and it'll help you keep your hands free if you need to get things done. Number 2 is skin-to-skin contact. This is also known as kangaroo care. Skin-to-skin contact is another form of this therapeutic touch that is very soothing for both parent and child. It enhances the emotional bond and stabilizes the infant's physiological functions. Number 3, gentle massage. So using gentle touch to massage your baby can really calm and reassure them. Focus on areas like the back and the arms and the legs and the feet with soft, soothing strokes. And this not only helps with physical relaxation, but also builds a profound connection through touch. So great for bonding. Number 4 is humming. So the vibration and rhythmic nature of humming, along with the auditory or sound input, can be incredibly calming and bonding. It's a really powerful way to connect and soothe your baby, and it taps into the vagus nerve. Listening to calming music can have a powerful effect on mood and emotional state. Listening to soft, rhythmic music with your child can help synchronize your emotions and calm the nervous system together. Number 6 is reading out loud. Sharing a book with your child is a wonderful way to connect. The sound of your voice provides auditory comfort, and the physical closeness creates a safe space for emotional bonding. Number 7, dance parties. Engage in fun dance parties with your baby. The rhythmic movements and physical closeness help regulate your child's emotions and can really create joyful shared experiences for everyone involved. Number 8 is rhythmic activities. So engaging in activities like rocking, swaying, or gentle bouncing, which we often do just naturally as mamas. These rhythmic movements really stimulate the vestibular system, which is a big player in our arousal levels, and it mimics the soothing environment of the womb and helps to regulate your child's emotional state. Number 9, you can use scents. So familiar scents can be very soothing. You might wear a soft scarf or a comfort item during the day, and then you can put that near your child when they're resting or when they're feeling dysregulated to help them feel more secure through that familiar scent. And I love essential oils. One of my favorites is actually called Peace and Calming, though lavender is great for calming and soothing as well. Number 10 is visual or soothing environments. Soft colors, gentle lighting, mobiles, soft patterns, or gentle visual stimuli like lava lamps or salt lamps can be fascinating and soothing for children. Number 11 is actually creating a calm down jar, and this is for older kids, but it could be a really fun activity to do together. You can fill a clear jar with water, glitter, and glue, and when your child feels overwhelmed, they can shake the jar and watch that glitter kind of settle, which mirrors the concept of emotions settling and calming. 12 is sharing breathing exercises. So for older toddlers, practicing deep breathing together can be very effective. Make it fun by blowing bubbles or using those pinwheels that you can blow and have them move around in a circle. This teaches them how to control breathing when they feel upset, using your calm presence, of course, as a guide. I invite you to try these activities out and see which ones work best to help you and your child co-regulate. Now, I want to touch on something that is related to co-regulation. It is an essential part of what gives co-regulation its power to support and manage the stress in our little ones. And this is called synchrony, also referred to as emotion contagion. As parents, we have a positive synchronous relationship with our children. When they're upset, we tend to follow suit. And when we get upset, they tend to follow us there as well. And this doesn't just happen behaviorally, but also at a physiological and energetic level. If we cannot regulate ourselves, we cannot co-regulate. To truly regulate ourselves, we must be aware of our thoughts feelings and arousal levels throughout the day. We need to pay attention to and get curious about our own triggers. And we need to experiment with various different regulating tools that can help us maintain balance and calm so that we can then have more clarity and control while we parent our children and have a better chance at helping them to calm. I encourage you to find something that you enjoy and that helps you feel regulated and calm, not just when you co-regulate with your child, but also that you can do on your own to really fill up your own love or regulation cup. Perhaps it's breath work or going for a walk. Maybe you're doing yoga or some other form of exercise. Maybe you like journaling or crafting, meditating, or just simply being present in the moment. These all sound a bit like things you can also do for self-care. Am I right? Self-care is so important for us as parents. We need to fill our own cups so that we have a greater ability to regulate ourselves and in turn can better care for and co-regulate those we love. Finally, I want to leave you with this thought to sort of tie this episode up with a nice little bow. As parents, we want to do our best for our children, and we're the perfect people to help with this big transition from the womb. Unfortunately, we're often met with conflicting advice and information from the people we trust, our middle of the night Google searches, or that random person we follow on social media. And we can get confused. With confusion comes worry, stress, and eventually overwhelm. I'm here to remind you to pay close attention to comfort. Responding to and comforting your baby is a powerful, simple way to form, build, and strengthen the attachment relationship with your little one. And no, you cannot spoil a baby by holding them too much or by picking them up every time they cry. Believe me, I have heard all of this, even from a nurse in the hospital when my firstborn was only hours old. You cannot go wrong with comfort. Comfort and connection are the best things you can do to support and nurture your baby's developing brain. If you are ready to take a courageous step towards doing motherhood your way, the Mothering from Within Collective is waiting with open arms to help you get curious about your parenting values, tune into your mama instincts, gain clarity about baby sleep, development, reflux, and more so that you can be the confident supermom you have always dreamed of. Visit the link in the show notes to learn more about the collective and how we can walk this beautiful path together.